This video is in direct response to a request for assistance from Brazouck. He asked for an after-action video report for the new game Modern Naval Ops. We'll be using the version 1.01 after the first patch. The scenario will be North Pacific Shootout, an official scenario released with the game. We'll examine our orders. Whenever possible, we will run this scenario in real-time recording so that viewers can see just how much work it is to play. We'll examine our orders. Our primary order is to launch a P-3 reconnaissance flight from Brazouck to search along reference points 1, 2, and 3 with the intent of identifying a Soviet cruiser and collecting signals intelligence. Aircraft from Battle Group Echo should be used to escort and support this mission. A quick examination: here's Brazouck and here is Battle Group Echo, supposedly. The first thing we'll do is we're going to change the game options, the side and rules of engagement doctrine. We want to make sure that as much control is returned to the player, because the AI just does a whole lot of dumb things when left to its own. So I will tell the units not to return when they run low on ammo, not to automatically evade, not to maintain standoff, and not to refuel unless I actually tell them to do so. Otherwise, they tend to get into trouble when left on their own. In addition, I will tell everything to start off as passive. Only when I order it manually to turn on will the emissions turn on. Secondly, I'm going to change the map settings in order to reduce the clutter. We'll turn off the underwater sensors. We'll turn off the underwater weapons. In addition, I'm turning off the surface weapons and the surface sensors. So the only thing we'll have are the air weapons and air sensors. You'll note that we are on the unit display mode at the group display mode. But even when we click on the battle group, we still get all the clutter available. So what I'm going to do is check the mission editor and notice that all of these have been set up for us already. I am going to delete I don't want the AI doing things that are preset for me, so I'm going to try and delete the anti-submarine warfare patrol, which consists of a Sea King and the tanker. The way MNO handles all the units patrols, and they have them set with a lot of these reference points, which just adds to the clutter. So I'm going to order my helicopters to return to base, and I am going to delete all these reference points, just so that we don't have to keep looking at them and confusing things. The tanker one is also going to be deleted. The air-to-air missions are set by Combat Air Patrol, but they are under manual control. no mission has been assigned to them. The jammer is on a mission that's pre-assigned. I'll leave it with that. In addition, the airborne early warning Hawkeye is up and her radar is on. I have radar at this base, but it's not under my control. We can see that the A denotes it's an allied base, but it's not under my command, so I can exert no influence over those units. Moving eastward, we'll check on Adak Air Base. We can see that there's one aircraft for under maritime surveillance loadout ready to go. So we'll launch it. It will be up in 6 minutes and 15 seconds. Another second aircraft is preparing for launch, and it will be ready in 6 minutes 11 seconds. It's armed with anti-surface harpoons. We'll examine Battle Group Echo. This is the carrier battle group. It's been given a plot to go westward. In general, I don't like to do what the AI or scenario designer tells me to do, because they often try to put some nasty surprise like submarines or something else out here. Generally, I do whatever I can to avoid following what the AI or the scenario editor has set out. There is nothing in my orders that says I must go in this direction, so I'm not. Instead, I'm going to continue north. Notice all the clutter that is supposedly, this is group mode, but there's nothing we can do to get around this thing. It doesn't matter if once you click on it, it's going to appear. For this reason, I am going to, the numpad 9 will toggle between group and unit mode, but note there is no difference in group or unit mode. So this would be great, but the second we click on it, we see all this incredible mess. So I'm going to break up all the ships and maneuver them individually so we can hopefully get away from these clutter. I'll examine the air group and see that we have a number of intruders aboard. They're armed with different things such as HARM, high-speed anti-radiation missiles, and laser-guided Skipper 2 bombs. No other intruders appear to be ready at this time. I'll leave those loadouts. A second flight of intruders are armed with long-range loadout for Harpoon 1C, anti-surface. We don't see a target yet, so we'll leave those alone. My Vikings are set for maritime surveillance or anti-surface warfare with anti-surface torpedoes. I'd rather have my anti-submarine aircraft armed with real weapons. So we'll select both of them and hit the arm. Unfortunately, we don't know which ones of these loadouts we actually have. There's no way to tell except by going through each and every one of them to see if any of these are available. Very inefficient. We finally found one, and I'm going to arm with Mark 46 torpedoes. It will take us 60 minutes. That's okay because we already have other aircraft ready to respond immediately. So the extra 60 minutes for these two aircraft to arm is not a great impediment. We'll check our interceptors, and we see that many of our Tomcats have either the heavy barrier combat air patrol loadout or the light barrier combat patrol air loadout. I think we're going to need the missiles, so I'm going to change all the light combat air patrol loadouts to heavy. Once again, you can't tell which ones are available, so you just have to click on all of them to find out. Luckily, we do have enough for the heavy barrier combat air patrols. They'll be ready in 45 minutes. Our Sea King maritime surveillance helicopters will also get rearmed, hopefully. Let's see if we have enough. Oh, there are torpedoes, so we will rearm them. They'll be ready in 30 minutes. I'd rather have armed aircraft than unarmed aircraft up there. The Prowlers, I have 2 unavailable for maintenance, but one is being readied for 3 hours. Let's see if we can't change it. We'll first change him to ferry. So now he's ready in 30 minutes, and maybe we'll change him back to long range. I'm going to change him to the short range jamming pods. He'll be ready in 30 minutes. We have 2 Hawkeyes on the deck and 1 already airborne. I'm going to launch a second Hawkeye. By having 2 Hawkeyes airborne, it will hopefully give me a little bit easier to triangulate any unknown contacts. The group has 4 Sea Sprite helicopters. Two of them are unarmed, which I'm going to change. Let's see what we have. Oh, we do have torpedoes aboard, so we will rearm them with anti-submarine warfare mode. I want to make sure that my Tomcats are radar silent, because I don't want them to reveal themselves to the enemy. The purpose of the Hawkeye is to detect and classify. Her radar is on, but it's under emissions control, which disables manual sensor control. I want manual control over my units. The same with the Prowler. We'll activate sensors, and it's also under emissions control, which is according to its mission, but I want to disable it. I want manual control of my Prowler. We'll start the scenario. New contacts are detected. The Ranger will pause it for a moment and issue our final orders. The battle group is set for 0 knots, but we'll give it a loiter. We'll give it a very slow speed of 5 knots. And we'll continue and let them speed up. The helicopters are returning to base as ordered. Now that we'll pause again, the ships have sped to their assigned speed, heading in the right direction. We'll pause, and I will detach each, and we'll go to unit mode, and I'll detach each and every one of them. Since we're going to get the clutter anyway, we might as well know what we're dealing with. And we'll continue heading in the previous direction. At this time, I will order the other Tomcats to launch that are ready. I suspect we're going to have some heavy action. So I'm going to launch all of them as soon as possible individually. So whoever gets in the air first will head out on patrol while the others rearm. Some radar contacts are already detected. Long-range surveillance radar, air search type 2-dimensional long range has been detected from this unit. My Tomcats are flying at maximum altitude, and I will plot them to face the enemy and loiter. A bug that was detected in version 1.0 review shows that we can order groups of fighters to actually hover at 0. But we won't take advantage of that, so we're going to version 1.01 tried to fix it a little bit. Individual planes can no longer hover at 0, which is good, but groups still can, so they didn't fix it. We'll order them to loiter, and I'm going to bring the altitude down so that they hopefully try to stay below enemy radar. The second Hawkeye is now airborne. I'll set it to another position west and order her to maximum altitude. Oh, it's a bounty hunter. It looks like the fighters have gotten up first. Look at that mess, and no way to declutter it. There's a second Hawkeye. We'll order her to maximum and order her active radar. We'll turn off and take manual control of our plane. It's not possible to know the different ranges for the plane. The Tomcat now is flying at 12,000 meters. Unfortunately, it says we will have an endurance of 4 hours and 51 minutes at this altitude. But we don't know what is the most economical altitude for it. So I will order the plane to dive, and all we can do is watch it as it dives to know when the altitude starts changing. There, we've gone down to, so as it loses altitude, at this altitude it is only 2 hours and 25 minutes when flying low. We'll climb back up to maximum and try to ascertain as to what is the best altitude for us to maintain. From 2 hours and 25 minutes, as we climb up through, the endurance should increase. But there's no way to find this out yourself by looking at the database. There's no way to know what the altitude or most economical altitude for cruising is. This is just doing it the hard way. We've just had a little bump from 224 to 243 as we crossed approximately the 3,500 meters mark. Remember, at maximum altitude it's approximately 5 hours. So we're trying to find a happy medium. Awfully slow way to find it, but there's no other way to ascertain what the best altitude to operate. And I don't want to be flying at maximum altitude because the enemy radar is also at maximum range. We just went up to 332 hours at approximately 7,500 meters. Let's see if there's one more. Enemy contacts are detected. Bogeys. While we're wasting time trying to find out what the best cruising altitude is. There we go. At approximately 11,000 meters, we have our maximum. So almost at maximum altitude. I will fly at 11,000 meters. Our plane from ADAC is aloft, and I will order it to fly near the task group in order to pick up an escort. I don't want her flying at maximum altitude. She has plenty of fuel range for 10 hours, and the scenario is only 6 hours in duration. So she may as well keep her low altitude. The enemy contact is broadcasting. We'll check the contact report. No emissions are detected. So this is quite possibly a detection by active radar. Because we don't want to be messing around with groups of Tomcats, I am going to go to group mode, unit mode, and I am going to detach them so that every Tomcat flies individually. The enemy or bogeys are flying in a pair. This is usually the characteristic of a fighter group. I am going to order my Tomcats down low, even though this is going to drain their fuel. By ordering them down low, I'm hoping to lose them in the surface clutter. Then, if I can, I'll approach them from their flank. Their radar for most fighters is only in approximately 45 to 60 degrees in front of them. So if I can approach them from either the rear or the side, I can probably surprise them without them counter-detecting me. The Tomcats currently on Combat Air Patrol are only lightly loaded. They have, check the weapons to see that they only have a pair of Phoenix and a pair of Sparrows. There's still plenty of weaponry, but not against a heavily armed fighter. So I'll need my relief Tomcats up as soon as possible. I'm trying to click on one of these in order to zoom in, and here are the other Tomcats. Notice that this incredible clutter that is around the carrier. Every time you try to right click on something, the right click menu comes up. If you want to see more about how this clutter affects the formation editor, you can check out the linked video. Our fighters are getting in the air, and now we're trying to sort them all out, get them flying to different areas. These are the Tomcats armed with 4 Phoenix each and 2 Sparrows. So these are my heavy hitters, which I'm hoping will come up to relieve the Tomcats already on patrol. The bogies seem to be just flying back and forth at 475 knots. The radar, there are no emissions for which we can identify them, so we're going to leave them cruising back and forth. We're not in a state of war yet. If we can accomplish our mission without hostile action, that would be better. One of the things I forgot to show was this is a relatively new feature in version 1.01, and it wasn't in 1.0. This is the ability to actually hold fire. The hold fire will prevent the AI from taking control of the aircraft and simply firing them. I can select all my units and order them to hold fire at the same time. This is a good addition. Previously in 1.0, which was identified in the review, you had to select each and every unit. It means each and every ship, each and every surface-to-air radar, each and every plane, and order them to hold fire. Now, by drag selecting all of them, we are able to tell them to hold fire at the same time, which is a good change. I've set up a second airborne early warning mission for my second Hawkeye. The simple missions such as jamming and airborne early warning can be given over to the AI because all they do is sit and fly. There's not much decision making. The combat air patrols really require human control, or else the AI just goes crazy firing and engaging on its own. Since the AI has turned back, the bogies have turned back, we can turn back ourselves and climb up to a more economical altitude in which to save our gas. Without the ability to enter a specific altitude, we have to do these with the sliders, and all we can do is get pretty close. We can't get it's very difficult to set a precise speed or altitude. Looks like we've crashed. Nope. Are we still running? There. It froze up a little bit and has caught up. Must be the new detections. The new detections are from the west. We can see this is puffball air search, surface search radar. In addition to, there was here we go. We'll pause it for a moment. This is flash dance fire control radar, long range. These will belong to foxhounds. We don't know which one, but most like it doesn't really matter. The foxhounds are very potent fighters. For example, this foxhound, we know that they'll be likely to be carrying AMOS, AA-9 AMOS missiles, semi-active radar homing. Another pair of foxhounds are detected northwest. This is a recon element, and it's probably a Badger, some type of reconnaissance aircraft. We have to take note of the Foxhound interceptors. We can click on the report and we can select, I think it's this one because it's 1989 and this is our date. So this most likely, the one nice feature in this contact report is we can double click on it and it brings up the database viewer for what I might suspect as the fighter. So we can see what the weapons might be carried by this fighter, and it seems to be air-to-air AA-9 AMOS air-to-air. These are semi-active radar homing, but there's also AA-6 accurate, which may or may not require radar guidance. They could be yes, they're infrared. These are quite dangerous, as we won't get any indication of them from radar signatures except when they're guiding on us. The most dangerous part of the Foxhound is the 1,350 knots it can travel. Our fighters, our maximum speed is only, well, it's an unrealistic, it's 650, but our maximum speed is 900 knots on Afterburner. So he is faster than us by at least 50%. Something to be wary of. My orders do not permit me to fire unless fired upon. So I will have to risk moving one of my Tomcats out and draw the enemy fire if he's hostile. I shall redirect some of the heavy Tomcat bar cap over to back them up. If he shoots me down, at least he will be avenged. Since we're spoiling for a fight, we may as well go active. I want him to know where I am. I'll keep the other Tomcat fairly low. Maybe we can lose him in the clutter. We can see by the number of different radar reports, each showing the different types of radar, the puffball from surface search, long range, and the short horn radar surface search as well. It's not too bad, but once these get concentrated, it turns into a whiteout effect that can prevent useful information from getting through because it's just too cluttered and congested. The number underneath each contact is how long it's been tracking. So the last time we tracked it was 5, 6, 7 seconds ago. Now once we've confirmed it, the number will start rising as the last time it was solidly contacted. There we go. I'm moving my jammer out to try and support the Tomcats. If there's a fight, hopefully her ECM systems will help degrade the enemy radar enough to protect or reduce the chance of a missile hitting. Flashdance coming in from the north. We'll move another pair of Tomcats to intercept. We don't know which one will be first and which one will draw fire. One will go in high and one will go in low in hopes that at least one will survive. We can see that the pointer or mouse over this big black box of death, which kind of covers up anything underneath it. It shows the information of the location of the pointer, which is coordinates, which is great, and the thermocline layer as well as the time and the weather at that point. Unfortunately, when you get close and want to see something specific, it can cover up all the useful information that you might need with stuff that you don't need. And there's no way to turn it off. We're out here, once again, trying to remind you, we're spoiling for a fight and trying to get the enemy to open fire on us. A nice part of the game is the messages, the layout overlay that appear so that we can keep track of the action without taking our eyes off the map. These messages can be also printed out on a different window. I'll pause the game right now, and we're going to set up the game option so that this is one of the nice features that's been added. When a weapon has been fired, we're going to have a pop-up window. This will slow the game down and pause it for us so that we can react. This was something that was sorely missed in Harpoon. We'll pause again. Seeing that all this white clutter is just distracting, we're going to try and turn that off so that contact emissions are not going to appear. Or we'll send it so that only if I select it will the contact emissions appear. And that way we'll try to reduce the clutter. Looks like the northern tomcats are going to make contact first. So I'll turn them off and order their radar active. At least the high-flying tomcat. The one skulking low will hopefully be lost. She'll dive down even lower. We'll stay just high enough to launch Phoenix if required. Both pairs are closing quickly. The foxhounds are noted as hostile, and they have exhibited hostile intent, which usually means fire control radar has been locked upon us. Under my discretion, even though our orders specifically state do not fire unless fired upon, I consider this a hostile act and will open fire. Two foxhounds are in. I will allocate 2 Phoenix and 2 Sparrow to the second one. Even though the weapons, we'll back that up, are not able to fire, they're not green light for fire. By allocating them, the AI will fire them as soon as the launch parameters are fulfilled. This is a nice thing that doesn't happen in Harpoon, where you may have to allocate again and again and again and again and again until the weapons actually come off the rails. The second Tomcat is also going to engage in reverse order, so that we'll fire the Phoenix at the second Foxhound and the Sparrow at the first. We'll also increase speed to full and climb while activating the radar for guidance. Vampires are detected. Fight's on. I'm going to have to turn off this game option because every time the weapons are detected, the game will pop up and slow down. We'll pause this for just a moment. And now we have to check on our northern targets. See, in Harpoon we would easily have one map tracking the southern targets and one map tracking the northern targets. Unfortunately, this isn't possible. In MNO, we only have the single map. But if there's a fight in the south, there's going to be a fight in the north. So we're opening fire with the 2 northern Tomcats. We'll send a pair of Sparrows and Phoenix at each target. In addition, we will order them to full speed and climb for maximum speed. Now's the difficulty of tracking 2 separate fights across the battlefield. This one will resolve first, so we'll have to watch it. One Foxhound has been shot down. The missiles are heading, there's 3, we can sell the number here, 3 are heading for the second target. All weapons are allocated. And she's shot down as well. Now that the weapons are fired, we can turn off the radar and we'll be heading back to base to rearm for the next engagement. I'll be ordering them at full speed so that we can minimize the rearm and reload cycle. In the north, we'll watch this one resolve as well. Notice when the fighters were out of range, the missiles, as they flew into range, they fire by themselves. One Foxhound has 2 missiles tracking on her, and the other one has 4. I'm hoping that by forcing them to turn away, the missiles are going to lose radar guidance. This should work. The Tomcats come barreling in with their radar locked onto the target. We'll take a quick look at this vampire, and there's no emissions for which we can detect. They could be AA6 acrid infrared homing. We're going to get a nasty surprise if they are. The radar just went active on the missiles, and 1 miss and 1 hit. Notice how the speed changes as the planes maneuver, so that the physics package prevents the planes from instantaneously turning, which is a good thing. Except the missiles. The way they've turned almost 90 degrees, which is probably not possible. The enemy has returned fire on the first Tomcat and will now be turning to run. The second Tomcat has released her Sparrows and must keep her nose pointed towards the enemy in order to provide guidance. They are semi-automatic radar homing, semi-active radar homing. The first Tomcat will turn back. In case these missiles miss, we're going to have to go in and engage with short-range sidewinders. Not something I would like to do. First one has missed. Looks like the second one has missed as well. Now we go in with the knife fight. The Tomcat is hit and killed. The second Tomcat allocates her sidewinders. The AIM-9M sidewinder is an all-aspect weapon, so we can fire them from the front as well as from the back. With both missiles off, we turn to run for home. There's no need to provide guidance for these missiles since they are heat seekers. The Foxhound is killed. The score is 3 Foxhounds for 1 Tomcat. Higher than I'd like, but acceptable losses. This Tomcat will also race home on full. Once the engagement is over, we pull the jammer back. A second round of bogeys have been detected. Looks like more Foxhound. Now, just like in Harpoon, this fighter I could classify as H with the H hotkey for hostile. I don't want to do that because the AI will tend to take over my units. For example, even though the units are on hold fire, the AI may still decide to turn on the jamming or radar and reveal my fighters if it's a known hostile. So by keeping them as yellow, even though I personally know they're hostile, I am going to keep them as yellow, so unknown, so that the fighters can hopefully circle around and take them by surprise. The second wave of Tomcats approaches. One's a heavy hitter with 4 Phoenix, and the second are light bar cap. These are only reconnaissance badgers, so I'm holding back the radar until the coming within the theoretical range for the fighters. We can kill these with sidewinders or sparrows. It's the interceptors which scare me. They've already killed 1 Tomcat. I do not wish to give them another, so I will engage them with maximum prejudice at maximum range. The lead Tomcat activates her radar and locks up all the targets. The puffball, the Badger reconnaissance, we can ignore. The deadly ones are the flash dance from the foxhounds. I've called up the second Orion from ADAC. It's only a 6-hour scenario, so we may as well get them in on the action. The first fighter is going to draw all 4 Phoenix. When dealing with foxhounds, I believe in assured kill. They are just too deadly to allow to escape. Once all 4 missiles are off, the Tomcat is turning to run. Because the Phoenix do not require active radar for guidance. The moment we turn off the radar, notice it's facing the other direction, we start losing contact with the other 3 bogies. I'm going to order the third wave of Tomcat to activate her radar. So she'll provide radar coverage while the other Tomcat flees. We can pick off the recon anytime we like. The Phoenix home in on their target. This is not good. And a kill. With the targets locked up, the second wave of Tomcats will each fire a pair of Phoenix at a pair of foxhounds. Once the birds are away, we are easily outclassed in range by the Sparrow. From the Sparrow is too short range, so the Tomcats will run. No shame in running, especially since the Phoenix can find their own way home. The third wave of heavy-hitting Tomcats are redirected towards the foxhounds in case we need to kill them. This Tomcat is returning to cruise speed and will come back to collect the recon elements. Enemy has released missiles. We'll disengage to drop the target and try to run. But because of the physics package, it is not instantaneous, so we're having some problems turning. By forcing the enemy to maneuver, I'm hoping to take his radar off me, and this should cause the enemy to lose track and his missiles to malfunction, even if we don't kill him. A miss and a hit. A miss, come on, and a second miss. The Tomcats are having a hard time turning around. Finally, the first one goes to flank and tries to escape on afterburner. This Tomcat is now just within range and will engage with 4. As stated earlier, there is no such thing as overkill when dealing with Foxhound. Once the birds are off, the Tomcat also turns to run. The next closest Tomcat will allocate her 4, even though the bogey is clearly out of range. The no escape, because he's coming forward, the AI allows us to allocate 4. They were in green. Even if they had not been in green and had been in red, had been restricted by one of these out of range or could not lock messages, we could still allocate the 4, and then the AI would let us fire them as we approached. Both Tomcats have survived their ordeal. And 8 Phoenix missiles are headed towards the enemy. But notice how we've lost. The Tomcat has turned around with her active radar, so we have lost contact with these fighters. The third unengaged Tomcat is activating her radar to provide guidance. They're locked up and 4 missiles are off. We can turn around and run for home. We have a backup Tomcat here ready to take on any survivor, as well as 2 more Tomcats coming in, with each armed with 4 Phoenix missiles. The situation should be well in hand. Since that's the case, these Tomcats are going to turn around and try to kill the recon elements with their shorter ranged Sidewinder and or Sparrows. Vampire, missile away. The enemy is counter-firing. First Foxhound is down. Without radar guidance, hopefully these missiles should disappear. It's not looking good. He's evaded 3, and he's evaded all 4. We're going to engage with both Sparrow and Sidewinder. When dealing with Foxhounds, there is no such thing as overkill. Unfortunately, this commits the Tomcat to face the target in order to provide radar guidance. Since we are unable to track different parts of the battlefield, we have called up more Tomcats, and they've launched. So we'll be bringing them up. We'll have to zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, laboriously in order to give a large enough map. The amount of minutia and micromanagement required is simply incredible. Of course, some of these tasks can be handed over to the AI, but that usually means that they don't work as well. One of the bounty hunters has been shot down, and 2 have been shot down. Not a good exchange ratio. A kill. We can only hope that these are not infrared guided. We may have a chance of evading. With the missile gone, we can now close on the recon elements. Sparrows away. Fox 2, Fox 2. There's a Fox 1. Terrible shooting. The Tomcats move to claim their prize. And the Sidewinders missed. This is terrible. There are no hotkeys to close those windows, so we're always hunting for the little boxes. Incredible. Being outrun by a bomber. The speed constantly changes back to cruise just like a bug in Harpoon 3. The second recon asset is down. The fighters race for home, and when they're close, we order them to manually land. They'll drop into a landing pattern and then take their turn on approach. Now might be a good time. There's still 2 Tomcats on reserve on the flight deck awaiting launch. The first waves of Tomcats recover on the Ranger. New bogies are detected. As the Tomcats recover, they rearm with the heavier loadouts. Even though this might use up faster Phoenix missiles more quickly, there's no point in saving them. The new bogies are detected more recon assets. Meat on the table for the Tomcats. With the Tomcats recovered and rearming and refueling, I'm going to try to move the jamming and radar assets forward slightly to try and cover this area that the P3 is assigned. One of the nice things about moving reference points in MNO is we can drag and simply select and simply move them forward. Unfortunately, we still have to deselect them. The speed of the Foxhound is simply incredible, so I must always be wary of how close my vulnerable Prowlers and Hawkeyes can get to the action. Another recon Badger is up and moving towards the task group. This should be fairly easy for the Tomcat to intercept. Checking on the range of the Orion, it's moving at cruise speed only 240 knots, so it's going to take a while to reach the area. We'll try to keep them below the radar horizon. A Tomcat moves to pursue and engages with Sidewinders. Before returning to position. With the shooting war going on, the Ranger will launch all available Tomcats and keep them in the air. In addition, she will send off her intruders to support the Orions. At such a slow speed, we're going to head right for the assigned zone. The fighters and bombers should be able to overtake them easily. Another wave of fighters has rearmed and is up to back up the current combat air patrol. Flights of intruders armed with high-speed anti-radiation missiles as well as harpoons and laser-guided bombs also head into the general area. They are to support the Orions should they detect any cruiser, which was mentioned in the intelligence report. More bogies are detected. Fighters, judging by more Foxhound. And flankers. Looks like the Tomcats were ready just in time. We'll hold back. Well, they're moving very slowly, so we don't have to worry about them accidentally flying into the combat zone. That big black box of death that just keeps getting in the way. We've called up more Tomcats, and I'll keep them in the air as often as possible. Here come two more, with two more left on the carrier to act as backstop. The difficulty in selecting them means we have to always click through a whole cycle. We're staying silent and relying upon the eyes provided by the Hawkeyes. Perhaps we can surprise these flankers. The range to the Foxhounds is firming up, so the Tomcats move to intercept. The Tomcat in the rear will activate her radar to provide guidance for a radar picture for the Tomcat in the front, who may be slightly more exposed. 4 Foxhounds are detected, including 6 flankers. But the Foxhounds are the ones with the incredible range. We'll move another pair of Tomcats to back up the first as they encounter the Foxhounds. In my opinion, the Foxhounds are more dangerous due to their longer ranged missile capability. We confirm this as Foxhound, and the first Tomcat will allocate her 4 Phoenix. Even though we're out of range, the AI allows for this and will fire them as soon as we enter range. The second Tomcat will do the same against the second Foxhound. The birds are off. Tomcat turns to maintain distance and increases speed. It looks like another Tomcat will get in range earlier, so we are going to order this one to disengage and drop all targets. Instead, the closer Tomcat, will allocate her for Phoenix. The birds are off. We see that 4 are allocated to each fighter, inbound on each foxhound. The first foxhound has evaded all 4. We'll need to re-engage. One good thing about MNO is that the firing arcs are respected. This means that if the enemy is turning his nose away from us in order to evade missiles, he is unable to fire. Whereas the Phoenix can guide by themselves. With the feet, however, the aircraft is now turning away, so we are losing the radar picture. Another inbound Tomcat goes active to provide the radar coverage. Luckily, the second foxhound dies much more easily. After 8 missiles, the first foxhound dies. But we still have 2 more behind, as well as 6 flankers moving in from the north. With the first 2 foxhounds destroyed, we turn our attentions to the inbound flankers from the north. We're pulling back the Tomcats, which only have Sparrows remaining. If we need them, we will use them, but we're rather engage with the longer ranged Phoenix. Also, the Orion is holding back to let the fighters sort themselves out first. even though there are two more foxhounds inbound, they might be far enough away that the follow-up tomcats can take care of them. The tomcat has locked up her targets, and she allocates her 4 phoenix. The birds are off. As she retires. Follow-up tomcats engage. And retire. The first 3 flankers have 4 phoenix each assigned to them. But they're very agile fighters and have a very good more agile than the foxhounds. First flanker dies. A second flanker goes down in flames. Very tense moments as the third one goes down as well. The trail tomcats unleash their phoenix and retire. The first flanker to survive a barrage of phoenix. looks like the last foxhound is going to survive. Just earns him 4 more phoenix and sparrows. The surviving flanker gets 4 more phoenix. Now it's a race between missiles. The flanker has survived a second barrage. We now need to engage with Sparrow. Foxhound down. We don't know how these missiles are aimed, but we're going to have to go to try to evade just in case. They may have enough oomph left to find us. The missiles are turned 180 degrees and are still chasing. The flanker is finally dead after 10 missiles. Two flankers remain, and 4 Tomcats armed with 4 Phoenix each close upon them. The Phoenix are off. The flankers see them and attempt to evade. Both are successful. Our Air Force compatriots have fired Sparrows to help out. A hit! A second pair of Air Force Sparrows engages the second and last surviving flanker. Hit! The skies are clear. Time to get the Orions on station. As the Orions move on their final destinations, a skunk is detected in the zone. It's only moving 5 knots. There's no radar emissions, so we don't know what it is. I've moved the harm-equipped intruders as well as the harpoon-armed intruders in closer to prosecute if necessary. Also moving a Tomcat in order to conduct reconnaissance, because she will at least be able to maneuver at high speed, thereby increasing her chance of survival should this contact prove hostile. Most likely this is the cruiser we've been warned about in the intelligence report. However, we don't need to kill it. We should be able to survive and still fly around it and make the last reference point. But it is an option. We have classified it as a cruiser guided missile. No emanations. The intruders are attacking. Sensors are detected, but we are unable to attack. It looks like the camera system on the Tomcat was sufficient to identify it from long range. The harpoons are off. The intruders with harm missiles stand by in case the cruiser goes active. The Orions plot a course around the cruiser and head for the final reference point. After having been on station, the cruiser remains unaware of her inbound missiles. She finally goes active. And is struck and killed. Time expires. The final score is 1900 for the loss of 3 Tomcats, 12 Foxhounds, and 6 flankers were destroyed, including the cruiser. This concludes North Pacific Shootout with MNO.